All of the women I'm friends with, all the women I know, they're like, where have the men of the world gone? Like, where are the men who take responsibility? Where are they? And my answer to them is, you killed them. That's where they are.
That's the problem. They all have a reason.
As a proud British man, I remember a time when the backbone of this great nation was crafted from strong, masculine fathers with the desire to raise good sons who could ultimately continue the tradition and take pride in being the man of the house. Today's world is a very distant version of this, with up to 50% of children in the US, for example, growing up without a father. After a quick coffee, I set off to find out why today's world has become a fatherless generation.
I'm Aisha Aslam. I'm the founder and director of Skool Counselling Services. I'm a systemic therapist, a clinical supervisor, and I specialise in working with families, couples, and individuals. I think the increase in divorce rates, there's many factors that contributes towards that. One example is there's less support from wider families, which then means there's more pressure for couples and the different roles that they have to fulfill. And this then gets multiplied by the rise of economic factors. So what you tend to notice is that both partners need to work in order to make ends meet. There's lower pay, there's higher costs in living, and this causes stress. It causes strain in relationships where they don't have time for one another. And this can also lead to divorce taking place. But there's also, we're living in a postmodern era as well, so there's less emphasis on religion and traditional values, so we don't really think about marriage in the sense of we have to work hard at it. It's important to sort of work on your marriage and really put in that commitment, but we now have this sort of notion on individualism, this idea of it's my freedom of choice, I can choose to do whatever I want to, and as a result of having that sort of perspective, it means that we have less pressure to have to stay married and that it is more accessible to divorce.
I think America's got, or maybe the West has their head so far up their ass. They're like, we don't want to look at these other cultures. Like, we know the way, trust us, it's working out. It's all working out, guys, as we're marching with like single parent household, men and women hate each other. It's just getting worse and worse. And we're just like, it's all going to work out in the end. But society progresses through zigs and zags. And I think the intentions are pure. Like, I think, people should have more freedom. I think we should have some of these old ideas modified or thrown out. But I think when you just do everything, it causes issues. And that's why I think we're seeing these problems between men and women. We're seeing divorce rates. We're seeing both parties are not satisfied with the dating market. Women have just as much complaints about men. And I never want to put it on Western women. I know some Passport Bro content creators are like, these women, these OF girls, like, I'm telling you, the guys have just as bad of a mindset. I'm out here, my girlfriend's over there. When we go out into the club, when we go outside, the respect for our relationship among other men is really high because they're not coming from a scarcity mindset, and they still respect the fellow men as fellow brothers. Like, they're like, this man obviously likes this girl. He's trying to treat her right. You know what I mean? They're out together. I'm not going to try to go in there and start hitting on his girl when he's away or like give her eyes from across the bar. Like, that's some Western shit because it's so man, we threw away all the rule. Like, and people are hungry. Like, it's a scarcity. I got to get as much as I can type mentality. Even when I post my girl on social media, the DM she gets from Western men is insane. Let me fly you out here. Let me take you here. And it's wild. Everyone's behaving as if they're starving. You know what I mean? When in other cultures, it's a lot like, no, I'm calm. There's a pretty girl with a guy. I wish him the best. If anything, the guy might be like, damn, that girl's really pretty. Let's help that guy out as a brother, as a fellow brother. Let's like make him like look kind of cool. It's kind of like the thanks for letting me borrow your Ferrari type comments. You've seen those in social media. Yeah. That's more the mentality among men. So it's just as much men are just as much of the problem as women as far as the Western dating culture and why marriage and all that's happening. In my opinion, I'm not a sociologist, but I've seen a lot of the world, and that's my experience.
My name is Susan Schwarz. I'm an analyst of Jungian psychology and have been doing some form of therapy for my whole adult life. And I came onto the idea, not the idea, but the realization that there's an effect if you don't have a father. I would say Western culture, culturally, a daughter's not supposed to rebel against the father. She's supposed to be, as you said earlier, daddy's girl. And that is not good for any culture. It is very difficult for many people who are from the East, whatever that means, East, to really deal with the Western culture. I would say the United States. One woman actually just a bit ago said people in the United States are very direct. It's not part of my culture. We are not direct like that. And I myself tend to be very direct.
I was making travel vlog content. I already sort of followed the tenets of a passport bro before I even knew what it was. And then I just started seeing comments on my stuff like passport bros up, passport bros out here. And I'm sort of like, what is this movement? So I'm definitely like, I like to explain it like I'm not the wave. I'm just like a surfer who was out in the ocean when a wave came and sort of got picked up with it. But it's men who are open to dating globally, like joining a global dating marketplace instead of just being trapped in whatever country, whatever location they're in. And a lot of guys, almost every guy who goes from the West, who goes to experience it, has a positive outlook and a positive response and enjoys dating outside of the West more than their home country. Everyone's got their own reason. And that's what's great about joining a global marketplace is like you could really find the culture, the people, the lifestyle that fits with you more. And there's a lot of factors. Almost everything's playing into your factor. A lot of these guys have remote jobs where the US is one of the strongest dollars. So not only does their lifestyle change dramatically, where they can eat out every meal, order in healthy food, get the best gym membership, get personal trainers, all of that stuff you carry with you into your dating life too. So now they're bringing all that in. The women they're meeting have these sort of cultures. Like the dating scene is very much a bunch of unwritten rules. You know what I mean? And we've developed those rules hundreds of years. And I think America sort of, in the sake of progress, just threw out everything. We were like, we're done with this. It's all, get it out of here. And now we're left with, okay, what are the rules? Is every date 50-50? Some girls are like, actually, I don't want it to be 50-50. Some girls are like, it needs to be 50-50. Some guys are like, I want this. Some girls want that. So now we're all just trying to figure this new thing out because we threw everything away. So I think guys like structure. I think let me know if I bring girls flowers on the first date and open the door for her, she's going to receive it a certain way in her culture. And it's not going to be like, is he perpetrating the patriarchy? And, you know, if you have a girl over, if she cleans your house and cooks you something, she's not going to feel like, oh, this internalized patriarchy. Like, what am I upholding instead of this, like, this is what men like being done for them. This is what women like being done for them. And it's a sign of respect, not a sign of some crazy giant dominance thing that's overarching all of our ideas. You know, I think I could keep going, but there's a lot of reasons why what makes it great. But I think those are like the major reasons is the lifestyle change, finances are absolutely better, networking, and having actual dating structure and culture that's been proven and sort of you understand how to behave.
So Western cultures have much more of an individualistic perspective. So this idea of focusing on independence, focusing on this idea of freedom of choice, doing what I want to do. So it's really very much focused on the self, and whatever the self you want to do, that gets fulfilled. In Eastern cultures, however, it's very much a collective perspective. And what they do is when they make decisions, they don't focus on themselves. They have to think a little bit more about the wider community, their families. So whatever decision they make, they need to think about what impact that would have on other people. So that gives you a little bit of a difference in terms of how people make decisions in life. But when we think a little bit about the shift in society as well, when we look at social policy changes, in 1969, the Divorce Act stated that people can only divorce if there was one person at fault. So, for example, if someone had an affair or had an abuse, was being abused, then that would validate the reasons to actually get divorced. But then in 1971, they actually stated that there doesn't have to be anyone that's their fault. So it made it more accessible to divorce. And what you notice at 1971 is that the rates just increased. You noticed a huge increase in divorce.
And I'm the kind of lawyer, you know, there's a scalpel and there's a chainsaw. I'm the chainsaw. Well, I'm a divorce lawyer. I've been a divorce lawyer for about 25 years. My practice is based primarily in New York City and the surrounding area, and I represent men, women. I occasionally represent children and when I'm appointed by the court, but 100% of my practice is divorce, custody, child support, and family law related issues. In answering the question or thinking about why people divorce, you really have to make a distinction between why people say they're getting divorced and why they're actually getting divorced. And you know, mental illness is the illness that tells you don't have an illness. So crazy people who know they're crazy aren't as dangerous as crazy people who are certain they're not crazy. So I have a lot of people that come in and they'll say, here's the reason why I'm getting divorced. But when you dig a little deeper into the facts of the case, you figure out, yeah, no, that was a symptom of the underlying problem. So he's sleeping with his secretary. Right, he's sleeping with his secretary. You hadn't slept with him in 7 years. I mean, people have always been saying adultery. The reason we're getting divorced is because this one committed adultery, that one committed adultery. And I get that because adultery's been around for a long time. And I always tell people that if you ever doubt that it's been around for a long time, whether or not you're religious, we're all familiar with the 10 commandments and theoretically that God gave us 10 rules as human beings. It's funny that you know, thou shalt not kill was one, but don't cheat got 2. Don't kill, honor the Sabbath, don't sleep with other people. Seriously, don't sleep with other people. So that to me tells me that this is a problem that's been around for a while.